Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions.
We are very excited to host today's event, Masterclass, Unlock the Potential of Generative AI on AWS. Presenting today's topic is Terumi Laskowski. Terumi is an Amazon AAI training consultant and author holding more than 25 years of experience in IT. Her passion for cloud computing developed at a very early age. Being a teenager, she always showed her enthusiasm for understanding the technologies that make computers tick. This deep sense of curiosity on technology led her to achieve all the associate, professional, and specialty certifications and was recognized as an AWS authorized instructor champion.
Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges.
We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the AI and data practice areas.
Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com.
In today's session, you'll learn the fundamentals of generative AI on AWS, including core concepts and model architectures through a live demo. You will also get acquainted with generative AI applications like Amazon Bedrock and Amazon Q, and various customization methods within the AWS ecosystem.
And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handouts section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic.
Hey, Terumi, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Terumi Laskowski. I'm an AWS authorized instructor, and it's truly my pleasure to be spending this time with you to discuss the topic of this masterclass, which is unlocking the potential of generative AI on AWS. Now, AWS has been in the business of AI for quite a long time. Their flagship product called SageMaker was introduced back in 2017. Okay, and I have actually been interested also on AI quite a bit before that as well. Okay, um, but the Gen AI is just a next level, right? And the services that AWS offers in the area of generative AI was introduced just um, last year. So it was back in September of 2023 that they've released to the public their Gen AI line of services. So it's a pretty hot off the presses type of topic. Okay. By the way, before we move forward with the webinar, I do have to kind of apologize ahead of time if you hear the sound of airplanes, helicopters, cars, right? Because I do live pretty close to a military base. So you may hear those sounds. So I do apologize ahead of time. Okay, just please go ahead and ignore them. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about what we are going to be covering today. So here's the agenda, and the agenda is divided basically into two pieces. So 1 through 4 is all lecture. Okay, so that's going to be the first part where I just be talking using the slides that I have. Okay, then the second part would be the demonstration of some of the services that I talk about in part 1, and then I'll entertain any questions that you may have at the end of the webinar. So please hold your questions all the way to the end. Okay. By the way, we'll probably take a short break between part 1 and part 2. All right. Okay. So now let us, without further ado, go into the first topic. So the first topic is going to be introduction to generative AI and surrounding services, right? And I'll introduce some of the use cases, like how you would use these, right? Gen AI. But this is going to be pretty generic. So it's not going to be AWS specific. Okay. Then we'll start to apply AWS, on the following topics. All right. So specifically then, what is the objective for this particular section? So I want to introduce to you what Gen AI is. Okay. Then why is it so exciting? Okay. And how is it like changing almost everything that we do? Okay. And the key points is that I do want to kind of set the understanding of what AI is and what generative AI is and how they kind of fit into the current progression of this technology. And we'll talk about the Gen AI, but also its surrounding services, including some key players in the field, okay, and key technologies. Okay. Then we'll cover how do we get here. So that would be the evolution of AI. And here I use the word AI models. I do have a slide on what a model is. Right? So basically, at this point, just the AI is, let's say, equivalent to models. Okay. Then, so the evolution of AI models to leading us to the current, and who knows what's going to happen, going forward, right? Okay. All right. So the first topic then is Gen AI. All right. So here we are. So in Gen AI, you see that there's a generative part and there's an AI part. And I do want to kind of start with the AI part first. Okay. And I know that, most of you attending this webinar already been working with AI. You know what an AI is. I just want to kind of make sure that we have a common understanding for this webinar. Okay. So what is artificial intelligence? Okay. So here it is. It says computer systems and models that can perform tasks that you think that the humans will do. Okay. In fact, there is a very famous person named Alan Turing. You probably heard of him. Okay. Very famous in the field of AI. And he came up with something called the imitation game. Now, you said, oh no, that's a movie. And yes, there's a movie of the same title, right? And I believe Alan Turing was the main, the main person of that movie. But the imitation game that Alan Turing came up with was later, I believe, renamed as a Turing test. Okay, so the Turing test or the imitation game is, just imagine that you as a human is in a room, right, with a display and a keyboard in front of you. Then In the other room, you're told that there's somebody or something behind that, but you can communicate to it using the keyboard and the display system. So you just kind of type whatever you type in human language, and then the response comes back, right, from the other room, right? Then when you look at the response and say, well, was it a human that was actually answering this back, or was it something else? And if you say, well, I can't tell, I can't tell. It sounds like a human, but I can't tell if it's really a human. Then the test succeeds. That is, oh, so in fact, if this was not a human, it was a piece of computer systems, but because you couldn't tell, the computer system was able to mimic human to the level that you could not tell. So that passes the AI test, right? So that's a pretty high bar, right? For you to say, okay, so if you can't tell the difference, then it's AI. So in order for the AI to be able to pass that imitation game, what would they have to be able to do? Well, probably stuff like learn new things. Okay. How about reasoning? So, 1 + 1 = 2 type of stuff, right? Or, if you have A and the B, then it comes out to C, right? Those kinds of logical learning and reasoning. How about solving problems, right? Problem solving. Okay. How about seeing things like perception, right? If you show something, a picture says, oh, yeah, that's a mountain, that's a hiker, that's a dog type of stuff, right? So that's perception. And how about understanding human language, right? So language understanding, okay? If you have all these things, yeah, if you can't see what's on the other side, and if it seems like the thing on the other side is doing all these things, says, oh yeah, I can't tell the difference between a human and a not a human. Okay, so there you go. So that is artificial intelligence and a little bit about Alan Turing. And you may want to check out that movie, Imitation Game. That was a pretty nice movie. All right. But AI is not just one monolithic, one big thing, right? It's actually divided into many parts, many categories. So I want to, kind of show you a slide that, I drew that kind of depicts that. So on the left-hand side on the slides, I've come up with 4 categories. Well, actually, one is a catch-all category. I didn't have enough room on the slide. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So I have in the middle artificial intelligence, and on top left, I have the category of machine learning, ML. Now, was machine learning the first thing in AI field? No, it's not. Okay, but because machine learning is pretty focal to what we're going to be talking about today, I put it right on the first one. Okay, now in machine learning, you have, I put in here supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, deep learning. Okay. Now, actually, I think if you look into like a textbook, they're only going to show you 3, which is supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Okay. Mainly because deep learning actually is a subcategory of supervised and unsupervised and reinforcement. Right. So it can actually fit into any of these. But if you hear people talking, deep learning sounds like a separate thing. So I put it as a separate thing, but just, now that it's not really a separate thing. It comes under the umbrella of the other 3. Okay. Anyway, what is a supervised learning? Well, this is, the analogy would be, us going to school and learning the right answer, let's say from a teacher. Okay. So the teacher knows the answer, and, they will impart us knowledge so that we will also acquire that knowledge that they know. Okay. But they have the answer, right? So that means, if you come up with the wrong answer, the teacher's going to say, nah, that's not right. Okay. So that's a supervised learning. You have a teacher supervision when you're learning stuff. And machine learning is the same way. Okay. But, there are things that you don't need a teacher to learn. Okay. And sometimes teachers cannot teach you certain things. Okay. But if you still learn, right? So that's basically unsupervised learning. You're allowing for the machine learning process to learn new things without the benefit of a teacher. Okay. Hopefully you're learning proper things. Right. Then reinforcement learning, right? So reinforcement learning is actually, pretty close and dear to my heart because I actually, I'm a student of dog training. So I'm trying to teach my dogs, to behave, right? And one way to teach dogs is basically using reinforcement learning. So reinforcement is to help them do the right thing, right? So if they sit, when I say sit, I give them a treat, okay? And if I say sit and they don't sit, I don't give them a treat. right? Okay. So then hopefully the dog learns that, oh, if she says sit, and if I sit, I get a treat. I'm actually going to listen to her, and I'm going to learn that sit means to actually, like sit down. Okay. So that's a reinforcement learning. And deep learning. So you'll see that deep learning was not a thing pretty early on in the AI world. Neural network was, okay? But the neural network came to equate to deep learning, okay? So when people talk about neural nets and stuff, it's we're trying to mimic how our human brain works. And people say that the way we learn is that the neurons that exist in our brain make connections, right? So when we're learning new things. So those connections represent new learning. And if you forget something, chances are that those connections were broken, right? So they, as in the scientists, were trying to mimic that human neuron and how we learn into the machine. Okay, so that's neural. And deep learning is basically where you have like a highly complex, many, many layers of neurons, maybe not as much as what humans have, but in the computing world, it's like tons of neurons connected together, and that's usually called deep learning. Okay. Then the second category is the knowledge, representation, and reasoning. By the way, this part right here is actually kind of early on in the AI world. Even before machine learning, we had knowledge, representation, and reasoning. Okay, and in fact, this is when I got a little bit involved and became very, very curious and interested in the AI world. Is this category number two here? Okay, and specifically, I assisted a professor who had funds to do a project on a particular expert systems. Okay. And the expert system is where you're trying to mimic an expert in a particular field. So in my case, my professor had a grant to create an expert system in negotiations with people from different countries. Okay. So how would you, as a U.S. person, negotiate with somebody from, let's say, Germany, or people from China, people from Japan, etc. Right? Because there are cultural nuances to how people act and say and do in high stake negotiations. Okay, so in my case, I was asked to collect what's called rules for negotiating with the Japanese. Okay, because I have a little bit of background in Japanese, and my mom's Japanese. Anyway, so I understood a little bit about the Japanese culture, not fully. So I had to laugh when they say, "Oh, Terumi, you have to collect these rules." Like when people say Japanese, when people say yes, they actually mean no. I said, "What?" Yes, that's right. That's what the Japanese do. When they say yes, they actually mean no. Okay, so I had to collect stuff like that. So these are rules, okay? So that when you feed that into the computer system says, okay, so we'll pretend that we're negotiating with the Japanese, and I'm the expert, and we said something, and they say no. That means yes. You see, these are rule based. Okay. Anyway, so that's basically what an expert system is. It was very much collecting a bunch of rules and applying them to a particular context, right? That mimics the behavior and the actions of the expert in the field. There you go. Okay. Then we have robots, right? So robotics. I separate that out as well. It's pretty much a separate field within AI. So how does a robot navigate the environment, right? How do you manipulate the robots? And how do you interact with robots, right? So these are some areas within robotics. Then I have a catch-all category, okay? Others, right? So in the others, I have planning and scheduling, okay? Natural language processing, or commonly known as NLP, okay? It's like, can you talk and, feedback information like how human speaks, right? And writes. Perception, computer vision, right? Search and optimization, looking for optimal solution or path to something. Multi-agent systems. I mean, there's so many others, right? Now, then you may say, well, wait a minute, Terumi. This thing about NLP, I've heard that in context of Gen AI. Okay, so we haven't really talked about Gen AI here, but what I do want to stress upon you is that AI is a pretty interdisciplinary field, so that you may see multiple categories of things working together to come up with a solution. Okay, and stuff like NLP and perception can stand on its own or support other categories of AI. Right? It's interdisciplinary. Right? Anyway, so there it is. Okay, and I have that stuff. So hopefully you have access to the slides later on, so you can go back to what I have as a blurb here. But that's basically categories of AI. Okay, so that is models. All right. So I'm going to talk about models and what is a model, right? The way I try to visualize model is like a brain. Okay. And initially, it may know some things, or it may not. Right. It could be pretty much a blank slate. Um, and you feed data. You give them reinforcements. You teach them right from wrong, right? And then it learns things just like a human, right? But the difference between the human brain and the model, which is like the computer brain, right, is that the model stops learning as soon as you stop training. Okay, so as a human though, our learning doesn't stop, right? You're learning new things. You may not even realize that you're learning new things, but as you live in the world, at large, you pick up things, and your brain just builds on top of each other. Okay, but with AI models, as soon as you stop training, it stops. Okay, then you have to use it, right? So the reason why you create this model is so that you want to use it, and you use it, but eventually, because it's not learning new things, as the underlying environment changes, right, your model may not be relevant anymore because it learned old stuff, not the new stuff. So at some point, you have to say, I think this brain needs a retraining, or I think it probably needs to be fed this current data so their brain is more relevant to the current context or current environment rather than the old, right? So yes, you can actually teach an old brain stuff, okay, but you do actually have to intentionally train it. Okay? So I think that's the difference between the human brain and the model, right? Now let's take a look and see, well, how do you create this model, the brain? Right? First, AI is not cheap. Okay, so if you want to come up with a model that solves something, you have to make sure that the problem is a right fit for AI, because not every problem that we have can be solved using AI. Right? So if you are faced with a problem and say, you know what, I can actually write a Python code for that. Okay, so if you think you could write a program to solve that problem, I think you probably should do that, right? Not use AI, okay? Because AI is not like in the end, everything's a program, but if you can solve a problem using a program, just a traditional program, you should probably do that, because AI is going to be too costly and maybe not as accurate as what you expected. But if you come across a problem that says, you know what, I think we may be able to write a program on that, but I'm not sure. And it may be a lot of work. Okay. And so these problems will present themselves to you and says, yeah, I don't think we could solve this easily using a regular traditional programming. Then you probably want to consider using AI as a tool to solve that problem. So the very first step here is define the problem and decide whether it's an AI or non-AI that you're going to approach. And if you choose AI, great, move to the second step, right? So the second step is you choose the right algorithm or techniques. Now the algorithm is, remember I told you about the model and how it could be like a blank slate, okay? But certain models are geared towards solving certain types of problems, okay? And these are true because of the algorithm. So algorithm is like a mathematical equation. Okay, it's the way that the model is able to process the input and come out with the output. Okay, so for example, take, for example, if you have a problem that you want to solve that is detecting abnormal behavior, right? We call that anomaly detection. Anomaly detection. Okay. Now there are certain algorithms that are really, really nice for solving anomalies, right? Or detecting anomalies. Okay. So it's geared towards learning that kind of stuff, right? So then, but what kind of anomalies? Well, that depends on the kind of data that you feed it. But it's built so that it can detect normal events compared to abnormal events. Okay, so then you feed a bunch of data in there, whether it be network security type of events, credit card spending events that are kind of not normal type of spending. You could think of all these places where anomalies, detecting anomalies would be very helpful. Okay, so then you feed data to it, and you've chosen a anomaly detection type of algorithm, and then you train it. Okay, so number three is then you feed data to it, and you go back and forth and make sure that your model is predicting more right things than wrong things, right? Okay, so that for machine learning, this involves what's called data training. Okay, um, and sometimes depending on the AI, though, if we're not talking about the machine learning, maybe about coming up with a bunch of rules. You see, this model here applies to any type of AI, not just machine learning, right? Okay, but anyway, so you train it, then you get the brain in the end, right? You get the model, the output of the model, then you freeze that. Okay, it says, okay, we got it, right? Then you use it in the real life situations, right? So you feed real life data, real life credit card spendings, patterns and stuff, and then see if that model predicts more right than incorrect, whether it could detect, let's say, anomalies. Okay. Yeah. So that's how, in general, one creates an AI model. Okay, so that's what a model is. Alrighty, and at times, like I said, you need to retrain this thing. Okay, or not from scratch maybe, but add on to the knowledge that it already has to make it smarter. Okay. All right then. Now finally, we're coming to generative AI. Okay, now we did kind of talk about generative AI in the evolution, right? The time frame of how AI came to be what it is now. But here it is, right? What is generative AI? Okay. And what is the difference between the traditional AI solutions and Gen AI? So with Gen AI, the reason why it's so exciting, right, is that it's a AI system to come up with brand new content, brand new something. Okay. Now, traditional AI is not like that. It doesn't come up with a brand new content. So, for example, if somebody tells you, oh, it's a classification problem, okay? So we're going to solve a classification problem with AI. So, for example, the anomaly detection is that, that thing that just happened, that credit card spending, was that normal or not normal? See, it's a classification, right? It's a one or zero, okay? Now, if you have these things where it says, okay, this AI can tell the difference between cat and a dog. Okay, you show a bunch of cat pictures and a bunch of dog pictures, and the AI learns the difference between the cat and the dog, and then you show a picture of something, whether it's a cat or dog, and see if the AI can actually say, oh, that's a dog, right? Well, let's say with 95% accuracy or something. That's still a classification type of stuff. It's not coming up with anything new per se, right? But Gen AI is not like that, right? It creates new content based on the data that they've been trained on, right? Not just analyzing and say it's one or the other, right? That's the major difference. And then generative AI creates new data instances like text, like, a bunch of words, right? Or images, music, okay? And video. Yeah, I know, right? Videos, okay? That mimics the original, but not quite exactly the same as the original. Okay, because some of these algorithms are able to put some randomness into the algorithm so that it kind of look like, say, oh, I've seen that picture before, but not quite. Okay, so for example, take a look at the image that I have for this slide. Yeah, that's Gen AI. Okay, so I came up with this picture using Gen AI, and I used something called Midjourney. And I told Midjourney, I says, okay, give me something that's with white background, uh, comic style, right? Not photorealistic, but comic style, that illustrates a Gen AI robot, okay, that is pulling information from the world, right? I think that was kind of similar to the words or what we call prompts that I gave it, and then it came out with some options, and I picked this one because it was nice and colorful, and yeah, it was kind of cute and stuff. Okay, so anyway, so that and you may have seen this as but tell me, I think I've seen something like this before. Yeah, you may have, right? Because Midjourney was trained on existing images, but it'll combine things based on the request that I gave it, the prompt that I gave it, and it's going to put some randomness to it. So it's not going to look exactly like it, but it may mimic some artist's style. It may mimic some existing images, right? But it's still considered to be original, right? And some people argue on that, but anyway, so that's basically an example of a creating a new image, right? And I could have put it here photorealistic, but I didn't want to because when you do a photorealistic with Midjourney and stuff like this, it kind of looks scary. Okay. Anyway, so some examples are writing poems, writing news articles, right? People coming up with YouTube videos that are created mostly by Gen AI. People writing books, right, using Gen AI. Brand new music that says, okay, come up with a brand new jazz music. Or, it's still jazz, but it's not like jazz that you've ever heard. It kind of sounds like something, but it's not exactly the same. You see, that is so exciting, right? Because it really helps the human like myself to be more creative. Okay, so I don't have to be a master artist to come up with these types of drawings, right? Anyway, so let's move forward. So in the category that I gave you earlier, such as machine learning and other categories, where does Gen AI kind of fit in? Okay, so this is my depiction here. Okay, so and I'm going to be using a pen here, so hang on just a moment. Okay, here we go. So let's take a look at on the left-hand side. Let me expand this. Oh, well, looks like I can't expand it. Sorry about that. Looks like I'm not able to expand this thing for some reason. Yeah, sorry. So it's going to be kind of small, but might as well. So as you notice, Gen AI is classified under machine learning. Okay, it's not under all the other stuff that there were three other categories, but it's under machine learning. And in machine learning, remember, we talked about supervised techniques, unsupervised learning techniques, and the reinforcement techniques, right? Okay. Then within that, what I did was I identified deep learning and not deep learning, deep learning and not deep learning, and deep learning and not deep learning, right? So that tells you then the Gen AI is in the genre of deep learning, right? That is massively, dense neural network type of stuff, right? Okay. Then within that, let's take a look at the supervised learning and look at all the examples. All the blue ones are the Gen AI techniques. Okay, so these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things on the right hand side. Okay, that so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. Now, when you look at the Gen AI techniques slash algorithms, right? Okay, you notice that there are certain things that are in common. So something like autoencoders, generative adversarial networks. Remember, GANs is something that we saw earlier in my slide. Okay, I told you that I was going to come back to it. Okay, and you see the autoencoders are here as well. Here is another autoencoder, right? And then you have a generative adversarial network here as well. And then this is kind of sort of like generative adversarial, but with a little bit of twist here. Okay, so you see that there's like a major like a three type of things, right? One is the autoencoders, one is GANs, and you have actually two things. So you have autoencoders and GANs, right? So those are the major breaks. So what are these things? Okay, so autoencoders. The way to think about autoencoders is this: it's like if you have an artist, right, expert, okay, and let's say they were asked to do a sketching a detailed scene, right? You have a very detailed scene, and then the artist is asked to make it simple, like compact sketch, right? So the artist will draw a compact and simplified version of a detailed scene. Okay. Then from that simplified scene, can you recreate the detailed scene from that sketch without seeing the actual scene itself, right? So the only thing you give it is a simplified scene, and can the generative AI come up with something that looks more realistic, more detailed? Okay, so that's called autoencoder. So the goal here is to, you know, find the essence of the original scene inside the simplified sketch, and then, as accurately as possible. So there you go. So that's basically what an autoencoder is. Okay. The other type is GANs. Okay. So GANs actually involves, so notice the name, generative adversarial networks. Whoa, adversarial, like a fight. Okay. Not exactly, but GANs involve actually two AI programs. Okay. So one creates, let's say, for example, an image, right? That looks like a real image, right? And the other one will look at the image and say, that looks fake. Or, yeah, that looks like a real thing, right? So they make a decision, okay? So the first one will learn then, how to make the image look real, right? So you have the second one says, wow, this one looks real. So whenever it says, nah, it looks like a fake, then the adversarial network will learn from that feedback and say, okay, I'm going to do it better next time. Okay, so that's basically what GANs is, right? All right, so that's autoencoders and GANs. And then let's take a look at the variational autoencoders, right? VAEs, because this is pretty, prominent in Gen AI as well. So VAEs are like a more, let's say, sophisticated version of the autoencoder. Remember, we just talked about autoencoder, from sketch to the real scene. Okay, so just imagine an artist who's not only sketches a scene but also experiments, right, by adding something new. Uh, uh, to it. Okay, so this helped to make new image that's not been seen anytime before, but it does feel familiar because it's coming from something simple to something detailed, but with a new additional like creative component into it. So that's a VAE, variational autoencoders. Okay. Now, last but not least, let's talk about this thing called GALE, right? So generative adversarial limitations learning. Okay, so this one is just kind of imagine something like a teaching somebody to perform a task, right? By only letting them watch a video of an expert at work. Okay. Now I've tried to do that before. It's pretty hard, right? Like I said, I don't know if I told you, right? About my dog training thing. I tried to learn dog training from watching videos, and it's pretty hard. Okay. Um, but on top of that, without any direct instructions. Okay. So then try to imitate the expert's action as closely as possible. That's basically what Gale is. So it's a way to teach a computer program to mimic an expert behavior, right? Just outward behavior, right? By using trial and error to refine their techniques. Okay. I can tell you that I'm not a Gale learner for sure. I need to talk to the teacher, and the teacher has to tell me directly how to do things. I want to know the why, right? Not just looking at the behavior. But when it comes to general adversarial limitation learning, that's basically what it is, right? Watch the video and try to mimic what it does. Okay. Anyway, so this is the time where I'm going to give you some examples of these various types of Gen AI techniques. Okay, so here we go. All right, so CGANs, right? Conditional Generative Adversarial Network. How is that used? Okay, so let's say the use case is custom fashion design, right? We want to come up with a brand new, trendy something. Okay, so fashion brands can use CGANs to come up with new clothing designs based on the current trends, or any kind of a customer preference, for example. Okay, so the customer could say, hey, I want this color, this style, right? And then GANs will produce a variety of things that kind of fits that description. Okay, so there you go. So that would be GANs, okay, or CGANs. Next one is supervised autoencoder. Remember autoencoder, simple sketch to the actual thing, right? Okay. So here, the use case I have here is the photo restoration. So let's say you have very, very old photo that you want to, make it newer, right? Bring it back to the original, right? Maybe even better, okay? So so this technique can be used to restore old or damaged photographs, for example. Okay, so what you do is you train the data using the data set that does actually this, right? Take the old photo, make it new, old photo, make it new, and you just feed a whole bunch of stuff of the examples of these, right, into the machine learning algorithm. And the algorithm hopefully will learn, what is it that's different between the old photograph and the new photograph, okay? Then you give you test it by giving a old photograph and see if it could actually, perform the restoration. Like getting rid of, scratches, adjust the colors that are faded, or even if there are certain missing parts that it can actually recreate the missing part. Okay, so there you go. So that would be the supervised autoencoder. Okay, something simple to something that's more realistic. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at normally GANs. So this is Generative Adversarial Network. In this case, it's a real estate visualization. So you've probably seen something like this, in some applications where real estate agent can use this method to create a photorealistic image of home after renovation, right? So what would my house look like if I paint it pink? What would it look like if I were to break the walls and make it into a patio? You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff. Without actually doing it, you want to visualize it. What if you do this, right? So what you do is by putting an image of a current property and then you specify the desired changes that you want to make it, GANs hopefully will be able to generate images of the after picture. Okay, it's brand new, right? It doesn't exist, okay, but it's able to come up with something that's realistic. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at the use case number 4, the VAEs, right? Variational autoencoder. Remember, the variational autoencoder is something like autoencoder, but adding a new touch to it, right? Something like a new twist to it, okay? So the example I have here is interactive video game content generation, right? I've known someone who actually was in this field, and they say, oh my God, creating these video games is like so expensive, so time consuming. Um, I didn't realize it was that expensive. It was so time consuming, and it does require a lot of expertise. So anything that will help them to come up with new content, right, is going to be a major plus for their business. So here, if you're a game developer, you can use a VAE to come up with a new, a little bit different game environment or character models, right, using Gen AI, right? Just to kind of keep everything kind of feeling fresh and engaging, right? Without, somebody actually going and says, okay, so that's going to take us like another 2 years to come up with a new version. No, right? You want it right away. So there you go. You can just go ahead and leverage that and, come up with something new that looks a little bit different, but it does have the familiarity of the old. Okay. And I believe this is, yeah, so I have a couple more. So unsupervised autoencoders. Okay, so remember, unsupervised means machine learned on its own. An autoencoder coming from something from simple to more detailed. Okay, so here, music genre conversion. So what is that, right? So autoencoder can be applied to change the genre of a piece of music. So it's like, moving from classical to jazz. That's something, right? So this allows musicians, the producers, to experiment with cross genre music. Just giving them ideas. Gen AI could actually give you ideas about this, maybe even a new genre, right? A mixed genre or cross genre type of music. Anyway, pretty wild stuff. And the last example I have here is Gale, right? So here, remember the video, learn from watching the video and see if you can mimic it, right? So that type of stuff. So it can be used to train cars, right? Automatically driving cars by what? Imitating expert human driving. I think that's important. Not just imitating human driving, but expert human driving, because I don't think I want my car to learn how I drive because I don't think I'm an expert. I have problem parallel parking, by the way. But anyway, so there you go, right? So from expert. So it observes human drivers and learns to mimic their actions. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. And I think a friend of mine allowed me to ride his Tesla, right? And he says, "Watch to me as we do a parallel parking," and he just like took off his hands, and the car did parallel parking on its own. I said, "Oh my god!" All right. So anyway, so that's the kind of stuff. So that's Gale, right? Okay. Um, so with all this, it says, okay, is that it? I mean, that's a lot, but is that it? And the answer is, no, this is not complete, right? So the picture that I just gave you with the classification of all these Gen AI techniques, algorithms slash models under these existing categories, that actually is not 100% correct depiction of what a Gen AI is. Okay. So the question here is, do these techniques explain 100% of Gen AI techniques? And the answer is not really. Okay. So take, for example, something like ChatGPT. Right? So where does ChatGPT come in, for example? Right? Well, so in order to answer that question, you have to kind of step back. Remember the part where I had the slide about what Gen AI was? Okay. Before I went into all this, details about machine learning and categories and, GANs and all that stuff, right? Just step back to there. So rather than classifying Gen AI by its techniques and models here, look at what it's supposed to do. Does it, right, come up with new data that mimics the input? Okay. Does it create new content? That kind of makes sense, right? It's not like all over the place, right? And is it creating something that did not previously exist in a contextual way that actually fits the situation where you're asking that particular question? Okay, so these are types of questions that you may ask, and if you use something like ChatGPT, the answer probably is yes in this case most of the time. Okay, so take for example ChatGPT or GPT. Okay, so GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Okay, so that's GPT, okay, which ChatGPT is. So the question is, does ChatGPT fit into the categories? And the answer is no, it doesn't. Okay, it's not GANs, it's not the VAEs, it's not Gale, it's none of those things. But if you consider what it's doing, then yes, it's Gen AI. It come up with new content, it's contextual. Okay. So here, because it generates text that's new and usually contextually relevant. Okay. So learning from a tremendous amount of data without having actually programming that, right? Like a program says if then or else type of stuff. Yeah, ChatGPT actually fits the model of Gen AI. Okay, so unlike models that creates things from like adversarial processes or reconstructions from, let's say, a simple to more detail, GPT actually uses prediction, machine learning, right? Prediction, and then creating sentences, right? Natural language processing, word by word, in a way that resembles human writing and human speech. Okay, so yes, right? So it's asking, hey, are you Gen AI? It says, yes, I am. I use advanced transformer architecture that excels in generating human-like text by predicting the next word in a sequence based on all the previous words in the context. So there you go. This, if ChatGPT could answer that question, this is probably how they would answer that. Okay. Okay. So don't limit yourself. I guess is the message. Okay. Look and see what it's doing, and see whether it's Gen AI or not. All right, so now what I want to do is go into a related but a different topic and this is the concept of something called the foundation models. Okay, now the reason why I'm bringing it here is because we're going to be using this particular you know word, okay, in a next section. All right, okay, so what is a foundation model or FMs? And you'll start to see FMs a lot. Okay, so what's an FM? Foundation model. So foundation model is a huge machine learning model. That is, when I say huge, it means you fed it tons of data and it knows a lot of things. Okay, it's huge. Okay, but it's more general knowledge, more general knowledge. Okay, so in general, it's smart, but when you ask for something specific, it's not quite there. Okay, so if I were to, let's say, the other day, I was actually going to a dog training seminar. Okay, right? Why not, right? Um, and then there's a very well-known instructor. He has his own methodology for training dogs. Okay, so I asked ChatGPT. I said, "Hey, um, how would you describe the type of dog training techniques that this person is using?" Right. So ChatGPT said, "Yep, I know that person," and boom, it came up with a whole bunch of stuff. Then I looked at it and said, "Oh, that's wrong." Okay, it says no. This is quite wrong. Okay, so this is something called hallucination. In this kind of thing, is that ChatGPT will tell you, like, straight face. It says, "Yeah, I'm right. This guy's training is such and such." Uh, in a way that is very convincing to a human, because it sounds like humans saying that, right? So as far as the vast knowledge is concerned, I think that the comment was correct, like 80%. But the 20% that was wrong is like way wrong about dog training in general, and specifically this instructor specifically. So I told it, I said, "You're wrong on that," right? Because you're wrong on X and you're wrong on Y. And of course, in a normal ChatGPT style, it says, "Oh, you're right. I'm wrong." And it corrected itself from the information that I gave it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, getting back to this slide here, is that the FM is a tons and tons of knowledge. It knows a lot of things, but when you ask something on a specific topic, it may not know a lot about that particular topic, right? But it's prime for it. It's prime because it has general knowledge. You can customize the foundation model to apply itself to a more specific topic. So if I work with something like ChatGPT, not exactly ChatGPT, but something like ChatGPT, I could probably create something that is more specialized in dog training, for example. Okay, all right. So there you go. So that's basically what a foundation model is. Okay. So now it's time for us to get into the actual AWS services, right? So here, let's explore something called Amazon's Bedrock and Amazon Q. Okay. All right. So what are these things? Okay. So here, let's take a look at Amazon Bedrock. Right. So Bedrock is the service that was made publicly available back in September of 2023. That's the one that I said hot off the presses. Okay. So this is it. Right? And then you kind of look at the word and say Bedrock. Why did they name it Bedrock? Okay. So in general, bedrock is something that is at the foundation of something, right? At the bottom of something, uh, that supports all different types of stuff on top, right? So that's an image of bedrock for me. Okay. Right. So then what is bedrock then in this case in AI? Okay. So Amazon Bedrock is one place that you can go to where you can access um, a number of or variety of FMs. All right, foundation models, right? Okay, so Bedrock is the place where you go in and access FMs, not just the Titan, but all the other type of leading vendors in the field. Okay, so let's take a look at the capabilities, and we'll go to the site and take a look and see what the site says, right? So it's a fully managed service. So that means if you want to use Bedrock, you do not have to uh, provision let's say, servers and networks and all that. Okay, AWS already has you covered. Right? It says, hey, you want to use it? All right, start using it. Okay, that's nice. You can access a number of FMs from leading AI vendors. So I do have a slide on next slide on that. So let's kind of hold off on this. And it's a single place that you go to create Gen AI applications in AWS with all the security and all the privacy that are already built in to the AWS infrastructure. So it's leveraging all the other services in AWS, and particularly to this AI solution that you want to come up with. And guess what? You can also customize using your own data. Aha. Okay. So remember, FMs are general. And if you need to have a more specific application of the general FM, you need to be able to say, hey, no, 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 look here, okay? This is more stuff that's relevant to what I want to do right now, more specialized. Here's all my dog training stuff. Take a look at here, right? Type of stuff, okay? All right, so at this point, let's go and take a look at the site, which is for Bedrock. Okay, so I hope you're seeing the slide, the website, okay? Amazon Bedrock, okay? So the easiest way to build and scale Gen AI application with foundation models. Yeah, you know all the words here, right? Okay. So what is Amazon Bedrock? I've already kind of explained it, okay? But what I want to highlight here is if you say here, right? So what are the leading AI companies? So AI 21 Labs, Anthropic, Cohere, Meta, Mistral AI, Stability AI, and Amazon. Right? So these are the vendors FMs that are currently supported in Bedrock. Who knows? It may expand, right? Okay. Anyway, so that's that. Then if we go a little bit further down, right? Yeah, there's all kinds of resources here, but what I want to show you here is this. Everything you need to build Gen AI applications, right? It says model choice, customization, RAG, agents. Now, RAG and agents we'll cover in a next section, so I'm not going to go into detail at this point, but we will cover the model choice and customization. Okay, so notice what it says choose from range of leading FMs for model choice. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So in my slide, right, let me go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are currently supported vendor FMs. Okay, so you have Amazon Titan for sure. Okay, you can access something called the Cloud 3. Okay, AI Labs Jurassic, Mistral AI, Cohere, Command and Embed, Stable Diffusion, Llama by Meta, right? Okay, so if you're interested in looking see what all these things are for, due to time, I'm not going to go into each individual FMs, but these FMs are pretty well known. So for instance, if you do a lot of image work, Stable Diffusion probably you probably know this is where you come up with images. Okay, something like this is competing, I think, with the Mid Journey that I use. Okay, and the Llama. Okay, so Llama is also heavily used, and I didn't realize it was actually Meta. I think it was separate from Meta. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it was purchased by Meta. I'm not exactly sure, but Llama is pretty well known as well. Okay, so take a look at it, right? And you are able. Bedrock actually has more information about individually what these models are there for. Okay, all right. So now let's go back to Bedrock again. So the next thing here is customization. Okay, customization. So here, what is the point of customization? It's privately, right? That's all your own, adapt models with your data. Right? Because FMs are more generic. You want to be a little bit more specific, apply to your context, that is your business context, the things that you guys do in your business, not general stuff, specific things. This is where you can make the modifications so that your FMs will work specifically to your context. There it is. Okay, so what is that though exactly? Okay, so I have another slide for you on this one. Oh, by the way, sorry. I actually have another slide in between. So remember I told you that the Bedrock was a unified entry point. Okay, so these individual FMs, you can go to individually to these companies and use their FMs. Yes, and the way to use their FMs, they'll probably give you a whole bunch of ways to, the application integrates with the FM. Usually, you use a set of APIs, application programming interfaces. But if you want to, how much time do you have in a day, right, to learn about these APIs that are all separately developed by separate companies? Wouldn't it be nice if there's one set of APIs that you can use to use all these different FMs? And yeah, that would be nice, right? And that's basically what Bedrock will give you. Okay. Obviously, you do have to know about individual models and what they require, how do you configure and such. But in order for your application to access them, All they have to do is access it using AWS's API to access these things. Okay. So for example, just for example, um, how do you invoke? That is, how do you use a particular FM, right, inside Bedrock? So let me see if this link will take us there. I'm hoping. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So this is actually going to invoking models for Bedrock. Okay, using AWS Software Developer Kit. Okay. So notice there are different types of models here, like a A121 Labs Jurassic, Titan, Anthropic, right? So those are the FMs that I discussed. So let's just go with the first one, a very simple one here. Then what they'll do is they'll give you .NET, Python, all these examples on how to invoke something, right? And let's see here. Okay, so in this case, trying to look here. So for example, see where it says response equals, Bedrock, runtime, client, whatever, invoke the model, right? So that's the invoke model command. And notice where it says model ID, right? And that model ID will change depending upon which model you use. It's just as simple as that. You change the model name and you are actually running a different vendor's FM, whether it be AWS or any other company that's supported, right? So it makes the life of a developer, very simple in this case to work with different FMs. Okay. Anyway, so now let's go into the fine tuning. Sorry about that. Sorry for the slide that I forgot to talk about for the FM. So how do you customize and fine tune FMs? Okay. So now there are a couple of different ways of adapting your FM to your environment. Okay. And the one that we're going to talk about here is fine tuning. So what is fine tuning? Okay. So basically what you're doing with fine tuning is that you take the base FM, see that one right here? Let's say, for example, Amazon Titan. Okay. Then AWS will copy that and make a private copy of Titan, right? FM. Then you take your own data and you use it to, in a way, train it. It's called fine tuning, but you fine tune it. The difference between training and fine tuning is it's pretty similar, but sometimes if you say, I'm going to retrain this thing, it sounds as if you're clearing its memory and then training from scratch. That's not what we're doing here. We're using what Titan already knows, and you're adding additional stuff onto it, which is which specialize into your context, your data. Okay, so you're not clearing its memory. Okay, right. So that's why it's called fine tuning rather than retraining the whole thing. Then you fine tune it. I have a little gear here. So the model has different parameters that you can adjust. So you do some fine tuning to make sure that it works for your environment. And then AWS was going to actually give you a secure access to that because, look, after all, you're creating something that may be proprietary information that you have for your company. So you don't want everybody and anybody to be able to access that model that you fine tune, right? So AWS's infrastructure comes in handy here to make sure that that model is not available to anyone else. And by the way, the model that you create, AWS is not going to use for something else. No, right? It just stays in your environment. It just stays with your usage. There you go. Okay. So right now, you can actually fine tune FMs, not every single one of them, but you could do Cohere, Llama, and then Titan, right? So there are others that's not quite there that you can actually fine tune, but these three models, FMs, you can fine tune. Okay, so there you go. So that's fine tuning FMs with your data. All right. So now let's take a look at an example. Okay, so we'll take a healthcare example. Okay, so the problem then is a general model. Here we go, right? A general model may not be good, right, at medical terms and different types of formats, documents, or reporting that is used for healthcare, for example. It knows general things, but not specifically healthcare. So if you're a healthcare provider, how would you leverage the customization to use FMs in your case, right? So here the solution is to fine tune the model on a new data set that has, let's say, clinical notes on healthcare and health records, right? So you're going to feed it. So now, on top of what it already knows, it's going to know a lot more about healthcare. Okay, so that means this will enhance the model's ability to understand and process medical documents. Okay, so that's basically how you would do fine tuning. So you use a generic pre-trained FM. Remember one of the three, and then make sure you have the data that you need to train it. Okay, then you're going to fine tune the FM, the model. Okay, then adjust the parameters. Okay, then you have a new brain, right? That's much smarter on the healthcare. Then go ahead and use it, right? So it has a fine tuned knowledge. There you go. So that's how you adapt an FM, generic FM, into more specific into your situation. All right, then. Now, remember I told you about the RAGs and agents? We'll talk about that on the next section. Okay? All right, so now I would like to go ahead and move into this next service, which I said was in preview. It's called Amazon Q. Okay? So, Amazon Q is a digital assistant. Okay? Digital assistant. It says, oh, digital assistant. Okay? So, what does it do? It's an assistant to you to help with your business operations by combining and integrating Gen AI, right, with existing data systems. Okay, so that means you can use the FM as well as more generic data that, well, I'm sorry, more specific data that you have for your company. Okay, so you can integrate the data and you can ask it to go get it. Okay, and it will create content because remember it's Gen AI. Okay, and you can automate stuff. Okay, you can automate a lot of the, normally what you would do manually, you can do it automatically, and it will give you tailored response to what you ask. So it's highly contextual. Okay, so if we were to go to Q, there it is, right? Amazon Q preview. So your generative AI powered assistant designed to work that can be tailored to your business. So tailoring is an important concept, right? Remember how we adapt it using fine tuning? Okay, this one is a little bit different. But then we have automation, okay, of processes. Alrighty, so that's basically Q. So let me give you an example of what Q is. And by the way, in the live demo, I will do a very simple demo of Amazon Q as well. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at an example. Okay. How you may use Q. So let's say a retail company customer service. All right. So a customer service automation for a retail company. Right. So the example here is to see how Q could be useful in a retail company for managing customer queries. Okay, so this person here says, hey, I bought this widget, a blue widget. Okay, but I'm not satisfied. Help. Okay, so here the scenario is imagine a retail company that sells a whole bunch of stuff online. And it does have customer service center that handles customer queries on products, orders, shipping, returns, etc. Okay, so the company decides, hey, I think I want to improve this whole thing using Gen AI, specifically Q. Okay. All right. So then what happens? So this one looks a little bit busy, so don't worry. Okay. Let me go ahead and kind of expand on this. All right. So we still have the shopper. Okay. And what do we need? So we have Q. So here's the Q. Okay. That is leveraging the foundation model. Okay. Now in this picture, what else is new is that you have external data. Well, hang on here. You have external data. See right here. Okay. That is a source for company-specific information, right? Such as order management, logistics database. Okay. Because you see, Q is able to connect to over 40 enterprise applications and data. So if you have files in S3 in Amazon or AWS, you can go ahead and use that. If you're using Salesforce, Microsoft 365, there are connectors to connect Q into these systems and stores, data stores. Okay. So then let's see what the scenario is. So the person says, hey, I bought a blue widget last week. but it's not here yet. Can you tell me what the status is? Where is it? I actually have the same condition right now. It says, where are the stuff that I ordered? Right? I'm almost ready to call, right? Anyway, so then what Q is able to do is says, okay, so my AI FM, I know how to handle customer queries. I know how to do, NLP, understand what this person is saying, but I don't actually have a specific knowledge about this blue widget. Okay. So what it does is that it's going to, you know, um, activate the search mechanism that says, I'm going to go to the database because this is not a general question, it's a specific question. So I'm going to retrieve order details from the order management system and then check on the shipping updates from a logistics database. You see, those are the two external databases that you told Q that is available. Then after it retrieves the information that it needs to answer the question, it's going to generate a response, right? It's Gen AI after all. Okay. Then the agent may say, hey, your blue widget was shipped on whatever and is currently in transit. Oh, nice. Due to increased demand, shipping is slightly delayed, but you can expect delivery by a new date. We apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate your patience. Isn't that nice? Yeah. So that's basically what a queue will allow you to create without too much effort, by the way. Yeah, you'll see on the demo. It's going to be a very simple demo, but you'll see the power of queue. Okay. So there you have it, right? Look at this. Very nice, right? Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the next one. All right. So now let's talk about then the stuff that we haven't been talking about, which is the agents and RAG. What's that? So remember, this was the latter two of the features of Bedrock, right? That's the one that I skipped, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what these things are. All right, so what's a RAG? Okay, so the RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Retrieval Augmented Generation. What is that all about? Okay, well, without going into all the words here, let me just go ahead and simply, explain. So you have a user who wants to use the FM, right? And then it'll kind of ask a question, right? But if the FM is too generic that it cannot answer that specific question, now it's actually activates the power of retrieval augmented generation, where the search mechanism can go to the external data. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that what we just talked about? Right? The blue widget. Okay. Anyway, then it retrieves the information from that and it's going to rank. The FM itself is going to rank what it returns. Does that make sense? Right? What I got from the external data, is that going to help the customer, right? Or the user? If it does, it's going to rank the data that it retrieved, and then it's going to combine with what it already knows as a foundation model, and it's going to generate a response using pre-trained knowledge, right? And then the retrieved data back to the user. So that is RAG. That is RAG, okay? And if we could, for the moment, go back to the earlier slide, this thing right here. Oh, see the external data, right? And how the FM is directed to search the external data, comes back and generates the data, the response and feeds it back. It looks very similar, doesn't it? Okay. Anyway, so that is RAG. Okay. So Bedrock actually has this feature that you can actually incorporate your external company specific, let's say, database, even like websites, okay, and documents like PDF documents. It's pretty wild. Right? So then at this point, you may be or may not be wondering, what in the world is the difference then between the RAG, right, which is this thing right here, and model fine tuning, which is that one. Remember? So if I were to show this again, this was the earlier picture that I showed when we did the model fine tuning. Remember? Take the FM, take the new data, retrain the thing, right? And adjust the parameters and come back with a new brain that's much smarter. Okay? And compare that to FM that's not retrained, but it does have access to external data, and then it's able to augment, right, its knowledge with the external data and then respond back. Right? So the main difference here is that in a fine-tuned model, you have a new brain. Okay. Uh, in the RAG model, you don't have a new brain. Okay, you still have the same brain, same model. Sorry, right, same model. Okay, but adding to it more dynamically changing external information. Okay, so that's the main difference. So, but the similarity is that there are both ways for you to adapt your FM to your specific context, right? They both allow the FM to give you more specific information that is more relevant to your business or your context, okay? But there are pluses and minuses, right? So without going into the individual words that I've written here on the slide, the major difference here is this: when you retrain the model or fine tune the model, the information becomes part of the model, right? It has a deep integration, deep understanding about your context when you retrain it. When you do a external augmentation, the brain doesn't change. Okay. So for example, so sorry to go back to the ChatGPT example, where I told ChatGPT, I said, no, about this dog trainer, you got it all wrong. This part that you said and this part you said, it's wrong. Okay. Clearly wrong. Okay. And then the ChatGPT said, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You're right. I'm wrong. Okay. But if somebody else were to ask the same question, let's say the next day, they'll probably give that still the wrong answer because I didn't retrain the model by giving it a correction. Right. Okay. So ChatGPT probably thinks that my dog trainer does certain things or not do certain things, not based on what the input that I gave it, but from the training that it already received, which is frozen in time. Okay, as far as I know, as far as I know, it would be scary if these models start to learning dynamically. Says, oh, Terumi said it's wrong, so now I'm going to incorporate that in my brain. Anyway, so there are pluses and minuses. Okay, and for things that are constantly changing, like travel advisory, yeah, retraining the model probably is not a realistic option. Okay, even though it doesn't have a deep integration with the brain itself, it doesn't have a deep understanding of that. It can still adapt your model very quickly to quickly changing situations. So you have to kind of pick and choose your battles, right? What is the output that you're trying to get, right? And that's basically how you choose between either fine tuning your model or to incorporate external data in the form of RAG. Alrighty. Now, the next one, and in fact, this is the last service that we're going to be talking about in the AWS part, is the agents for Amazon Bedrock. Okay, agents. So, agents, right? These like autonomous, like robot type of stuff, right? Agents, right? So, what is it? Okay, it's something that's able to run complex multi-step tasks automatically. It's able to coordinate and actually run these. Okay. So it's not just a go get something, oh, I got it back. No, right? You do step one, then you do step two. If else, you do step three or step four, and then come back and feed it back. Okay. And leveraging Gen AI at the same time. Okay. So what is the feature of agents for Bedrock? So automatic prompt creation for FMs. Okay. So I've been using this word prompt kind of off and on. So prompts are the instructions that you give to the Gen AI model. Right. So for example, in the earlier example where I created the image, right, in Gen AI, I gave a prompt to Midjourney that says, imagine, so imagine this is how you tell Midjourney, hey, the instructions coming for new image. Imagine white background, comic style, illustrate, robot, incorporating vast amount of knowledge from the outside world, for example. So that would be a prompt. Okay. Then based on that prompt, the Gen AI is going to interpret that and come up with its output. In this case, the picture, right? So, but prompt, I'm not sure some of you have heard about something called prompt engineering. Okay. I guess there's going to be a job title called prompt engineers. I'm sure there are some already. I think there are like a bunch of online courses on how do you come up with the prompts that's more that's accurate, consistent, and all that stuff, right? So that means does that mean I have to learn how to create a prompt? And the answer is yes, right? Prompts and instructions. It's like a script that you give it to the Gen AI so that it can do what you want it to do, right? It does take a thought. But what if you don't have the time to do that, right? Would it be nice if another AI can actually create a prompt for you? And that's basically what agent will do. It will it will create prompts for you, depending upon what you want it to do. Okay. And look at that, RAG. So it's able to leverage RAG. That means you can incorporate external data, right, to whatever you're doing. And here's the thing, orchestrate and execute multi step tasks. And when we're talking about tasks here, we're talking about business processes, and not every single business process is a Gen AI process. Right? For those of you that know AWS, there is a bunch of compute that is, the services that will crunch data for you, like Lambda. So Lambda, you can run just programs, right? Like Python, Java, and stuff. Well, agent for Amazon Bedrock can actually run these like Lambda functions. So that means it's not just about going to get the external data and converting that to something that sounds like a human, output, and then feeding it back to the end user. No, you can actually do a lot more things like run programs and more extensive, step by step business process that is a lot more extensive, let's say, than just going to get the answer and feeding it back like a human. Okay, so here, okay, so I have the comparing Bedrock agent with Amazon Q. Okay, so let me just kind of hit the highlights, right? So Bedrock agent on the left and the Q agent on the right. So the Bedrock agent is able to automate more complex tasks by using a lot more other services within AWS, like Lambda functions. Okay, and because it's running on AWS environment, it is you could customize it and you could scale it, right? So that if you have more requests, you get more resources. If you have fewer requests, you have fewer resources. It will just automatically for you. Whereas with Q agent, it's more of an assistant. It's an assistant, digital assistant, right? So it's the user to provide information that they're asking for. Okay, so it is responsive and adaptive. So they adapt to response based on the user's, um, do you have the right to ask that question type of stuff. Okay, and of course it's based on the AWS's permissioning scheme called IAM, Identity Access Management, and role. But anyway, so it's a lot simpler. So the key difference here is a focus. Bedrock agents are more focused on automating and orchestrating complex business process, while the Q agents are geared towards assisting information retrieval, not running a bunch of processes. Okay, integration. So both run obviously on AWS. So it does integrate with the existing system. Okay, but agents are often involved in deeper business process integration, right? Because they can run other things. AI utilization. Bedrock agent may use AI for decision making in a workflow, so a number of processes, right? Whereas Q is more about interacting and generating text that answers the user's question. So they're a little bit shallower in the integration, okay, and utilization. All right, so those are the differences. And let's go with the last part of the lecture, which is the leveraging Gen AI for unleashing business potential. Right? So how do you use this thing? And I'm hoping by now, you're kind of getting excited about all the things that you could use Gen AI and specifically the AWS services to, solving all kinds of problems or actually, creating new opportunities, not just solving problems, right? Okay, so here we are. So the recap then is, kind of stepping back. What is Gen AI? Okay, remember it's a system to generate new content, right? And it's about creating new data, such as text, images, music, video, right? So the examples are writing poems, creating new images, composing original music with different genres. Remember? So that's what we talked about as what Gen AI is. Okay? So how do you leverage that? Okay? And here are some examples. Enhancing productivity. Okay. And I've actually made a link to the testimonials for Bedrock, right? And I specifically chosen examples here that highlights this particular topic. So here, enhancing productivity. So that's basically about automation, right? And taking human out of the loop on repetitive tasks that humans don't have to be wasting time on. If it's repetitive, automate it, okay? And you could definitely use Gen AI for automating. So the example here is automating customer service, response, and content creation. So I've already given you some examples of how you can actually leverage Gen AI on customer services, right? Like a travel agency type of stuff. Okay. So the benefit here is that you reduce the manual workload. People could be doing some other things while the repetitive tasks are being done by Gen AI. Okay. So I'm just going to go to the testimonial page just once so that you know what it looks like. So here it is. Here is the testimonials page. So there's a whole bunch of customers in here. And I'm only going to be doing this for this customer. So let's see. That's fine. Yeah, you see some companies that you recognize? There it is. Quest, right? And here, Quest helps apartment owners and operators build better community through technology, etc. Okay. So what it's saying is the apartment renters are incredibly savvy. They know how to find information. Okay. So now, if I were to kind of paraphrase this, so this company is using, I believe it's let me see. It doesn't actually say which service specifically. It just says Bedrock. But the customer service part about the customers coming and say, hey, what type of real estate, what combination and permutations of all that, they've automated that, right, using Gen AI. Right? So for customer services, they are leveraging Gen AI. Okay, and by doing that, hopefully it is consistent, it is accurate, it is fast, right? All those good things, and it's personable, right? Okay, sounds like a human. All right, so that's Quest. Okay, so the next one is fueling innovation. Right? As I say, so these pictures, okay, yes, Gen AI. Right? So fueling innovation. So when Midjourney gave me this, a picture of a person with the hat and the goggles, I said, oh, okay. So I could make her into a marketing person with try to come up with new goggle ideas. So that was a little bit of kind of fueling my creativity here, helping me along, right? So example here is AI driven product design or market analysis, right? So that's for creating new opportunities. So new product and services, staying ahead of the market trends, but understand that Gen AI is coming up with new content based on the data that it's already seen, right? Um, so it's going to look like something. So goggles are going to look like goggles, okay? But with some mixture of new ideas mixed into the old. There you go. And I'm not going to go to Dentsu, but Dentsu, I can tell you, is a Japanese company. I think it is the biggest marketing advertising company in Japan, Dentsu. So they're using Gen AI for to help their customers in advertising, in marketing. Okay. All right. So now let's go with this, right? So scaling operation efficiently. So once again, automation is the key, right? So AI in operational work, right, and making decisions, business decisions in the operational work, that is going to really enhance decision-making efficiency in perhaps, thinking about going into new market areas by making decisions, okay, based on what it already knows. So Versk is the example that I've chosen for you here. So, check it out when you have time. Look it into testimonials. Okay. Now, what I want to do is close out the lecture by presenting to you one process that you can follow for you to integrate Gen AI to your existing business. Okay. So I've kind of distilled it down into 5 steps. Okay. So it's a roadmap for integration Gen AI. So step 1, define objective. Step 2, prepare data and technology. Step 3, develop and test AI models. 4, deploy and monitor. 5, compliance and scaling. So let me quickly go through each one of them. So step one, remember I said earlier that if you're going to use AI, you should have a clear statement of what you're trying to solve. What is the objective? Because not everything could be solved using AI. So identify the purpose. Okay, that's pretty important. Okay, what you want to achieve with Gen AI. Okay, is it operational efficiency? Is it innovation? Customer interaction? You may come up with other things. So make sure you have that, right? Because you do have to justify the cost and the effort that goes into incorporating Gen AI. Then step two, prepare the data and technology. Remember, you have to customize the FMs to your specific needs, right? So you have to collect the data, and it's not just about getting data. You have to clean the data. You have to make sure they make sense. There are no mistakes, etc. Okay, so you have to organize the data, ensure it's clean and relevant, and then you select the technology, right? Which Gen AI model am I going to use? Which FM am I going to use? Am I going to use Titan? Am I going to use others like Stable Fusion? What are you going to use? Okay. Then number three, develop and test the AI model. Remember, you have to develop all the systems around Gen AI, like interfaces and such, as well as train the model, or you create a system where it's able to run, tasks like agents, or access, external data like RAG, right? So all that have to be done. Then you should test it, make sure they work, okay, to your expectation, right? And then deploy and monitor. Deploy that. If it passes the test, right? If it passes the smell test, deploy it. Okay, and then you implement it. So launch the AI model for your existing business processes. Okay, and as you do this, you'll get better at it. Right? Definitely, it's accumulating experience is pretty important here. Not just for the AI, but for humans as well. Right? And then monitor it, because remember I told you with the brain is that it could be operating on the old information. So you have to kind of understand that when the model is not functioning to your expectation, and then make a decision to retrain the thing or not. Okay, so track the performance, collect feedback, make sure it's still relevant. Okay, then compliance, right? So there's been kind of interest in corporations as to what is the proper use of Gen AI. Okay, and so, for example, when I give my AWS classes, okay, and when I ask a question, I know my customers are actually using ChatGPT behind the scenes and coming up with the answers because I could tell they're reading the answers. so so is that a proper use of Gen AI? I don't know. I don't mind. That's okay. But some companies do care, right? So you have to make sure that the usage of your Gen AI matches the compliance for either for your industry and or to your business policies. Okay, and then scale the operation, right? When you first initially create it, maybe you assume that the requests are coming at a certain volume. Maybe it will increase, and make sure that your infrastructure is able to expand, scale, to match the scale of the inputs that are coming in, right? And AWS does that very nicely in scaling. All right, so I'm done with the first part. I hope you got a lot out of that. So let's take a short break before we move into the live demo. All right, so I'll see you in a bit. Thank you.
Sure, we are now going to take a 5-minute break, but before we do that, we are going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the webinar. And let's go ahead and get into the second part, which is the live demonstration of some AWS Gen AI services. Okay, so here we go. There's going to be two that I have prepared for you to do. And one is the Bedrock FMs. Okay, remember Bedrock has a variety of foundation models, and we'll take a look and see how do you access that. Okay, and the lab that I'm going to be using is a publicly available AWS workshop. Okay, and they actually have very excellent workshops, so that yeah, I'm going to be doing a part of the workshop, which highlights the services that I want to show you. And you can always go back, and if you have your own AWS account or if your company has a sandbox, you can always do this lab too. Okay. All right. So I'm going to see. So this is a Bedrock actually has something called the playground. So without creating actual applications and such, you can test drive, so to speak, the Bedrock features. Okay, and that's what we're going to do in this lab. So I'm going to show you all three: the chat example, the text example, so the text generation example, and the image example. I'm just going to be following the lab. So let's go with that. And I'm going to go to that page right now. And there you are, right there. Okay. So this is I actually went straight to the foundation model, but the actual lab is right here. So building a Gen AI on AWS using Party Rock, Bedrock, and Amazon Q. Okay. And from this lab, I'm just going to be showing you how to use the foundation models, which is module 2. Okay. So it's right here, this module 2 right here. Okay. And I'm going to, in general, kind of talk about the steps that I'm going to be taking. And then I will show you in actual AWS account how to go about that. Alrighty? Okay. So it says here the prerequisites are that first, before we start on building with Bedrock, right here, you actually have to ask for the access to these FM, the models themselves. Okay, so I'll show you that piece. So it says head to model access page, on and on and on, right? Okay, so let me show you this part of it. So I'm going to be switching screens. So it may look kind of a little kind of weird, but here I'm going to switch screens right now. Just a moment, so that I could show you my AWS account. Okay. Let's see here. I think I'm going to go to here first. All right. So I'm hoping that you're actually seeing my Brave browser. And here I'm going to log in, right? So I'm already at the AWS page, okay? And I'm going to sign in. Okay. All right. So I think that should be good. Look at that. Bedrock is there already. Isn't that something? And see if I got my password correctly. Okay, so this is one of my accounts. All right, so you should see the page that I landed on. Okay, and I want to make sure here that you're actually seeing that. Okay, all right, so I moved that. All right, so I think that probably is a good place to be. Okay, so the next step says, hey, go to the model access page. In fact, I have the instructions here, so I'm going to go to module 2. Okay, and see where it says prerequisite model access page. I'm going to click on this. Okay, so look at where it says base models, right? And I'm just going to kind of close out all these things so that you can see that these are the ones that I showed you in my presentation, right? These are all different FMs, okay? And from here, I have to ask for permission to use them. So for example, for Amazon, right now, I don't have access status, right? It says available to request. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll click on the manage model access, and I have to ask for accessing these. Now for this particular lab, there are select models that I need to ask for. So this is basically here. Okay, so I'm going to be turning these things on right now. Okay, so just a moment. I'm going to go back here. I'm supposed to ask for everything in Amazon. So there it is, right? And for Anthropic, you do have to actually put a submit the use case here. So I'm going to, it requires an extra thing. So I'll put, let me see, let me get the proper URL. So I think it's Netcom Learning. Hang on, just in case they check. There we go. So let me just go ahead and cut and paste. Hang on here. Let me get there right now. Okay, so here it is. There we go. And what industry? So that would be education. External customers. Let's say none of the above. Describe demonstration. Okay, and then I'll submit it. This request. Right. So now that I've submitted the use case details, I'll open this thing up. And let's see, what do I need to do? I need to ask for Sonnet 3, that one, and also Claude, that one. Okay, and notice that Amazon just went away, so I'm just going to put that back in there. The next one is from Cohere. So here is Cohere, and I need, for this demonstration, to use command. Then I'll go to Meta, and I believe it's Llama 2 Chat, Llama 2 Chat 13. Okay, and I'm supposed to ask for everything Mistral and everything stability. All right, so these are the models that that the demonstration requires. Okay, then all you do is request model access at the bottom. Okay, so here we go, request model access, and we wait. Okay, so and in fact, you have to wait like 30 minutes. I'm not going to make you wait 30 minutes, okay? So I've actually requested these account ahead of time, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And notice that some of the models have already been access granted, right? But some are in progress. So these will become access granted in about 30 minutes, okay? So obviously we're not going to be using here because we're going to skip to another account that I have already asked for these access. All right, but I hope you see what the process is. And once all these things becomes accessible, now you are ready to use Bedrock with these FMs. All right, so let's now switch back into the account that I've already asked for the access. So hang on just a moment. Let's see, I believe it's this one. Is it? Yeah, this is it. Okay, so just want to make sure. All right, and let me get to that. Hang on here. So here is another account that I have, and make sure that everything is kind of showing okay. And let's go into this lab again, module 2, okay? And I'll show you the model access page from here. Okay, so as you can see in this one, because I did it ahead of time, all these access have been granted. Okay, so there you go. And let's see. So that was a prerequisite. And it says, congratulations, you have successfully configured Amazon Bedrock. That was that easy. And then we'll go to next. Okay. So the next part of the lab is where we go individually into some of the features such as chat, text, and image. Okay, and then kind of play around with that. All right, so that's what we're doing next. So hang on just a moment. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is let's go ahead and do chat. Okay, so here, experiment on a vast range of language processing tasks in a turn-by-turn interface. Turn-by-turn interface. I guess my turn, then your turn, my turn, then your turn. So here we go. Let's go to chat. And here we are. So it's still within Bedrock. And the chat playground. Okay, so the very first thing we have to do is we have to choose the model. Okay, so we'll say select model. Okay, and right now we're going to choose Anthropic's Cloud 3 Sonnet. Right here, Cloud 3 Sonnet. And I would say apply. Okay, so Cloud 3 Sonnet has been applied. The next one is we're supposed to load the example. So let's go ahead and load the example. And advanced Q&A with citations. So advanced Q&A with citations for Claude 3 Sonnet. There it is. And I'm going to load it in the playground. Here we are. Okay, so there we go. And notice the document, right? So it says here, and let me give you a little, let me expand this a little bit. Okay, it says, I'm going to give you a document. Then I'm going to ask you questions about it. I'd like you to first write down the exact quotes, parts of the document that would help answer that question. And then I'd like you to answer the question using facts from the quoted content. Here's the document. And then, of course, the document is provided. Okay, so this is a document about challenges in evaluating AI systems. Okay, and it's quite long. Let me kind of zoom back out, right, so you can see the whole screen. It's quite long document, but they have things like multiple choice evaluation challenges, massive multitasking language understanding, ML use, whatever, right? So it's a lot. So here we go. I'm just like scrolling through, okay, all that stuff. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to go and say run. Okay, so this is where we're going to engage this particular FM. So I'll say run. And it's going to actually, initially quote the relevant quotes. Remember, that was what was asked. That was actually the prompt that was given to this particular model, right? And the answer is whatever, right? So then here's the question. So let's see. The question would be, let's take a look at the document and see what are some of the things. So it says something about challenges in evaluating AI systems. Okay, so let me just ask the document about what are the challenges. Okay, so and I won't put systems in there and see if it could just go ahead and do that. So I'll just say run. Okay, and if you notice, it says here are the key challenges in evaluating AI systems, summarizing in bullet points. Very good, right? So, and it does kind of tell you what the citation quotes are. I believe these come to the earlier quotes, these relevant quotes. Okay, and let's see. So that was nice. And let's see if I could find something else in here. I'll say something like, let's see. I knew there was a word that I didn't quite know. So let's see here. Okay, so see that thing says BBQ? That just looks like barbecue to me, right? So let's like, what is BBQ, right? If it comes back and say it's a barbecue, that would be really funny. So here we go, run. Oh, it means bias benchmark for question answering, which is mentioned in this quote. And it gives you the quote, okay? And it gives you, what the answer is. Okay, yeah, so kind of play around with that. So that is the example of a chat. All right. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. So that was a chat. Okay. So we did that. So next is text. So this is text generation, right? Like write a book for me, Titan, right? On Gen AI or something like that. So obviously we won't go that far, but we would just go ahead and do text. So let's go ahead and go to text. Here we are. So now we're going into the text playground. Okay. And here we are. So let's go ahead and select the model. And this time we're selecting Titan's Text GI Express. So I'll say Amazon Titan Text GI Express, and I'll say apply. Okay. All right, so here is what I'm supposed to put in as a prompt, right? But here, once again, I'm going to be loading the example, and I'm supposed to be loading JSON creation, okay? So notice what it says, this prompt creates synthetic data for a product in a JSON format, okay? So, companies create these JSON format data for testing and stuff, and sometimes creating these test data could be really time consuming, but boy, if you can automate the thing, that would be great, right? Okay, so anyway, so we'll load it in the playground, okay? So here it says generate. So this is prompt, by the way. Okay, this is a prompt, and we say generate synthetic data for daily product sales in various categories, including roll numbers, product name, category, data sale, and price. Produce output in JSON format. Okay, and count records and ensure there are no more than 5. All right, so there you go. Okay, so then we should see now then a JSON formatted data, no more than 5, right? That has the roll number, product name, etc. Okay, so that's all you tell it, right? You don't say, well, what kind of product it is. Well, we don't say that. You just say run. Here we go. Let's see what they come up with. Okay. Now, if you were looking at the example, right, the instructions here, okay, and if you look at Titan, um, this one gave a phone case, category electronics, 2022, whatever's, right? All right, so let's take a look at what they came up with here. Okay, so here came up product T-shirt, clothing, 2020, price $20. Okay, roll number hat, sneakers, backpack, water bottle. So for whatever reason, it chose to select a retail type of product, right? Consumer products, but there it is. So now it's all in JSON format. It has all the required data. So if we were actually using this data, it's in a nicely formatted JSON data. Okay, so there you go, right? And if we were to run it again, let's see what happens. So if we were to run it again, let's see. Oh, I think it just repeated itself. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. I think I probably have to actually delete all this. Let's see. No, I guess not. What happened? All right, I think it's good. Let me just go ahead and revert back. Okay, so here, let's say, give me 3, and generate data for daily product sales in various categories, right? So okay, let's run it again and see what it comes up with. Let's see if it comes up with another like hat and stuff. Yeah, it actually came up with a T-shirt and hat. So I guess it's not too, but it did come up with just 3. It looks like it's a repeat. Yeah. Okay. So I believe we do actually need to tell it to be a little bit more random in its output. So by the way, see the configuration, randomness and diversity. This is where you control it. Okay. Anyway, so that was Titan's text playground. Okay, and so the next one is this is the one that I like. So we're gonna go into images. Yay! So image playground. We're gonna once again using Titan's image generator G1, right? And we'll say generate images. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and go to images. Let me just go ahead and type. click on that link, image. Let's go to the image playground. Here we go. Okay, so select the model. Let me just make sure that I'm in the right place. Okay, so we're going to be using Titan's image generator G1. All right, so here we go. Amazon Titan image generator G1. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and apply. All right, so this one here, load example. Generate image from text prompt. That's the one that we're going to use, right? So load it in the playground. Okay, so it's a blue backpack on a table. So it's the same prompt that you see in the example. So let's just go and say run it. Okay, and let's see what it comes up with. While it's generating, let's take a look and see in the lab what it came up with, right? So these are the images in the example, right? And hopefully it's not going to look the same, right? It's not supposed to create a repeated thing, but it's going to kind of look like sort of, right, what you see here, but not exactly the same. So let's give it a moment. Okay, so let's see. Does that look like the other one? Yeah, so if you look at the second one, notice there are like two tassels, but it's not a tassel anymore, but it is still two string or something. So it does kind of look something like it, and also the background's a little bit different. But the fact that it's blue and the fact that it's a backpack doesn't change. Okay, so I actually kind of played around with this. I've used something like a Mid-Journey to do an image of my dog. Okay, so my dog breed. Okay, and it's a relatively hard breed to get it right for the image. So I'm going to put in here. I'll say blue nose pit bull dog. If I don't put a dog, that the music artist Pitbull sometimes comes in, right? So I'll put a blue nose Pitbull dog. Okay, so let's see if that works. You know what? It may be the blue nose, may be one word. Blue nose. We'll see. Let it run. Okay, and let's see what it comes up with. I would like to be impressed. So we'll give it a moment. It's still blue, right? But actually, blue nose is gray, right? Gray silvery color. And let's see. Mid-Journey actually gave me like blue, color blue dog. So, but let's see how Titan will do this. Oh, look at it, right? So this is blue nose. Yeah. So notice it's gray, silver. Okay. And it actually came up with some dogs that has a cropped ear and some dog with not a cropped ear. So yeah, this is like impressive. This is definitely blue nose pit bull. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so there you go. So that was the playground working with some of the FMs, right? And I'm not exactly sure what would happen if I were to use a stable diffusion, but we'll cut it here. You can do this example yourself and kind of enjoy. All right. Okay. So that is the live example for the Bedrock FMs. Okay. All right. So let's go back into my presentation material. So hang on just a moment. Okay. So I think, let's see here. I believe, yeah, there we go. So now I'm back in my presentation material. So let's go back here. All right, so that was that. Okay, and the next one is going to be on Amazon Q. Now, for the lab that I just did, it does have a Q example in there, but it's more of a application code example. So I figure I want to show you something that applies to business. Okay, so I've selected another workshop that AWS has. Right, so this is a publicly available workshop, but it was more concentrated on using Amazon Q. Amazon Q. Remember the digital assistant, right? That has a capability to go outside of the FM and to access external data and then augment, right, the response with what it knows in the FM as well as what it acquired from the external data. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So we're going to do a lab on the Amazon Q for business. Okay, so let's go to this lab, right? So here we go. Here we are. Okay, Amazon Q, your AWS expert. Okay, uh, so because we've already talked about what Amazon Q is, so we'll go straight into the lab. On the left-hand side, you see a bunch of start the workshop and all this stuff. But I'm going to go to the way on the bottom, see where it says Amazon Q for Business. So I'm going to go right there. Okay, Amazon Q for Business. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to my account. So hang on tight, just a moment. Let me switch a room. So I believe now I have to go to yeah, Google Chrome. That's fine. Okay, and I also already have this lab right already open. So I'm going to go to Amazon Q for Business. And here we are, right? So let's take a look. It says Amazon Q offers tailored solution, right, for business by integrating with the company data and systems, right? Simplified through more than 40 built-in connections, right? This allows users, such as marketer, project managers, right, to engage in customized interaction and problem solving. That's great, okay? So here, what are we doing here in this lab? You are preparing for a security review of an application, okay, and realizes the need for a tool like Amazon Q that understands and can query about evolving security policies. Okay, so security policy, then it says evolving security policy. So that's going to come from the external data source, right? Actually. So what's the objective? You will leverage Amazon Q's capabilities for a real world application intended to connect it with existing IT systems like Atlassian, Confluence, and GitHub for policy review. The plan includes using the Information Security Handbook from NIST. By the way, NIST is National Institutes for Standards and Technology as the data source for the lab, demonstrating Amazon Q's practical application in dynamic business environment. Okay, so now what they're saying here is that look, your external data is going to be this NIST handbook, right, for information security. Great. Okay. By the way, NIST is an excellent resource for information security, so check it out. Okay. Anyway, so what does it say next? To complete list of supported connectors. Okay, that's fine. So we'll go to next. All right, so here we're going to be creating applications. So going forward, I'm just going to be, progressing with the lab. So let's go and take a look, okay? So I'm going to open up Amazon Q's console. All right, so here we are. Go and do your thing. Amazon Q, come on up. Okay, Amazon Q Business is currently in preview. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. And I believe I have to go to applications. So let me go to the left and see where it says applications. Okay. So here we are. Okay, so we are good to go. And next, what we are supposed to do is click on Create Application. Oh, by the way, let's take a look how it works, right? Experiment with sample data, create a generative AI application, enhance the application, customize the web experience. Okay, so the part that we're going to do is the second part, create the generative AI application. And then we're going to take a look at it using the web experience. Remember, it is a preview. Okay, that means it may not go exactly the way your lab page states. Interfaces changes all the time, so we'll be kind of flexible here. Okay, so let's create an application. Okay, so here, notice that there's a change, right? It says, by the way, IAM Identity Center is single sign-on. I'm just going to use a legacy because I don't have anything set up for single sign-on right now. All right, so let's just say okay. All right. So the application name, I'm supposed to put in here security policies. Okay, so choose a method to authorize. So we're just using a service role. And so the role is permission, okay? And I think everything is okay. So I'm supposed to say create. Okay. And it says it'll take about 30 seconds. Please remain on the page. So we'll wait. I don't recall if it actually took 30 seconds, but we'll hang in there. Okay. Let's see. Is it about almost about 30 seconds? Oh, it says a few minutes. Oh, I don't remember this taking too long though, so we'll kind of hang in there. Okay. By the way, while we're waiting, right, just on the side, what the service role is that, oh, there's next, but let me finish my thought. So the service role is a permission that you assign to AWS service. So if you're going to ask, let's say Amazon Q, which is a service, to access other like S3 and stuff, you have to give permission to the service. So that's basically the purpose of assigning a service role. Anyway, so now that it's come up, I think maybe it was what, like a minute? Okay, we'll say next. Okay, so notice it says data connect data sources. In the lab, it says just go ahead and forward without assigning anything and go forward. So we'll do that. We'll create an application without specifying any source. Okay, so right now, Q is just strictly on the FM basis, right? So here we are. So we have, security policies created. Okay, so let me go ahead and click inside that. So here we are. So we are now inside the security policies application that I've just created. Okay, so remember this part right here, create a generative AI application. Alrighty, so now I'm going to add a data source. All right, so in the data source, they ask you to download the NIST security handbook. I've already done that. Okay, so it's in my download folder. So I'll just say add data source. And we're going to be uploading files. So I'll say upload files. Oh, sorry, it's not ready yet. So it's telling me it's not quite ready. So I believe application setup, but it actually needs to have this thing called the retriever. Sorry about that. All right, so retriever is still creating the index. So we have to kind of hang in here. There you go. This is live. Okay, so hang on just a moment. There we go. So I think this is probably going to take just a little bit. So retriever, of course, is the retrieving of the data, and it's responsible for getting the data that's required to generate the response. Okay, so we'll wait for this. So this should turn into something called active. Okay, so once the active is there, then it's going to be able to go get answers from my PDF file. Okay. Ah, now it's active. Great. All right, so now I'm going to add data source. By the way, look at document count. There's nothing, right? There's no external source right now. So we'll add document source. By the way, I'm going to get rid of this thing, right? And upload files. Here we are. And it's in my download subdirectory NIST document. All right. So here it is, NIST Special Publication 800-100. If you're a security person, you know this inside and out, right? And then we'll say upload. Here we go. So it's uploading the document. Now, once it uploads the document, it needs to index the document. Okay, so we'll have to wait a little bit more for that. But right now it says, okay, it's been uploaded. So I'll say done. Okay, so if we take a look at it, so what's going to happen here is that even though you don't actually see anything, notice where it says document count 0. Okay, so that means the document that I just uploaded is not part of the repertoire. So we have to wait until this document count turns to 1. Okay, and it won't take that long. Okay, but we do have to wait maybe like a minute or so. So let's go ahead and wait for that. but it did upload the file. I wish there was a something that kind of indicates what percentage of indexing it has. It probably is somewhere, but I don't see it here. Okay. Um, so, and then because I am a very impatient person, I'm going to reload. I'm sure it won't change anything, but maybe it'll convey to AWS that I'm anxious about seeing the results. So there we go. Still document count is 0. We'll wait a little bit longer. I think I'll wait maybe 30 seconds before I do the refresh again. So hang on. While it's doing that, I'm just going to take a look and see what I have to do next. Okay, it does say just wait. So we'll wait. I should play this music, right? That from the game show. Dun 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 dun. Right? You know that one? Anyway, so let me go ahead and refresh. That's been about 30 seconds, don't you think? Okay, document count still 0. All right. Um, Obviously, I did this exercise already beforehand, and it does not take that long. But it's still, it would still be nice to kind of see something happening here, right? But something's happening. We just don't know. We just don't see it. Okay. Okay. Right. Come on, document. Gonna wait 30 more seconds. It's a pretty hefty document. NIST creates huge documents. Very, very comprehensive. By the way, while we're waiting, let me show you the document. So here it is. This is the NIST document. Okay, and let's see how many pages there are. Oh my gosh, there are 178 pages. Okay, and it talks about risk management. So that's what we're going to be asking questions about, right? So let's see. Let's see if we get to it. So here's the table of contents, um, information security governance requirements. NIST produces these types of documents mainly for U.S. government agencies to follow, not commercial, but a lot of commercial companies follow NIST guideline too because they do work with government. All right. So anyway, so I was on cue. All right. So document count is still 0. So let me go ahead and refresh. So it's indexing 178 pages of worth of PDF document. Okay. All right. Do your thing, Q. While we're doing that, let's kind of formulate what we're going to be asking. So here, let's see, there is a SDLC, System Development Lifecycle, and each of the lifecycle probably has risk assessment assigned to us, so we may ask about that. Awareness training, what kind of training, how do you develop it, right? And let's see, interconnecting systems might be interesting for risk management. Performance measures, yeah, that might be interesting to ask. Security planning, information technology contingency planning. Look at that. Risk management. So we have steps in risk management. We may want to ask that. Certification accreditation. This will be interesting. Certification accreditation only applies to US government folks. So it might be interesting to ask about encryption accreditation if there is any in here. Security service and product acquisition, incident response. Yeah, there you go. Configuration management. Oh, there's so many things to ask about, right? There are so many things. Okay, so Q, are you done? No, you're not done yet? So let's go ahead and Document count, refresh. Okay, we'll wait a little bit more. I think I'm just going to get a sip of a cup of coffee here. Hang on. Let's see how long the lab. Lab doesn't actually tell you how long it takes, but like I said, as I recall, it didn't actually take that long. But I think we've been waiting good 5 minutes or so. I think, maybe. Let's see. And let's see, the lab actually says, next you will use Amazon Q to provide answers using what it has learned from the document. I'm not sure you could say that it learned from the document because remember, we're not changing the model itself, right? But yeah, I guess in a general sense, it learns from the data that it's augmenting. Yeah. Let's see the document count. Yeah, it's still 0. All right. We'll wait. By the way, so remember in the discussion, I discussed the difference between actually training the model or retraining the model and augmenting the model, right? Completely different things. So if you recall, I think it was, not the current chat GPT, like chat GPT 3, 4, but like back in chat GPT 3, you would ask questions and they say, oh, my knowledge is based on, I don't remember, 2021, 2022 or something, right? And it's like 2023. It says, oh, my knowledge stopped at 2022, 2021. So I can't answer those kind of questions. And you may have wondered, well, why don't you retrain it? Like, what are you doing? It's 2023, and you're telling me that your data is only updated until 2022. Like, what's the problem, right? Well, for something like ChatGPT, I believe it takes like millions of dollars to actually retrain the model using GPUs, right? Graphical processing units. That's why I guess Nvidia is so high in the stock price because I believe they produce these GPUs. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but I just know that Nvidia as a company really boomed when the Gen AI type of products start using their GPUs, right? So it's not an easy effort to retrain something that is that humongous. Okay, whereas if you just augmenting with external knowledge base and like PDF documents, well, that's like you could do it, I guess, in a matter of like 5-6 minutes. Right? So here we go. It's not a deep integration, but hey, it's okay. It'll still it'll still adapt to what you need to do. Okay, so look, document count is now number 1. Okay, so it probably took maybe around 7-8 minutes. I think I'm just kind of guesstimating here. So now we'll move on to the next step of the lab. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into remember the step 1 is done. So we're going to go into step 3, which is customize web experience. So preview the web experience. So let's go and take a look. It's going to open up. Here it is, and I don't think we need this right here. Okay, so here we go. Amazon Q for Business. I'm your AI assistant, Q, right? Into a prompt to start a conversation. I'll respond using data from within your organization. So that's that NIST document that we uploaded. Okay, so let's see what the lab said that I should ask. So let's go ahead and ask. Okay. All right, so the prompt here is what should I do to prepare for a risk assessment? So that's a pretty general question, right? Because the whole document is about risk assessment. Risk management. So risk assessment is part of risk management. So what should I do to prepare for a risk assessment? Okay, so here we go. And it's going, it's not an EFM. We better go to the PDF. Okay. So prepare for risk assessment. You should follow these steps. Identify threat, identify vulnerabilities, analyze security controls, document the process, and ensure risk assessment results are reflected in your system security plan and plan of action and milestones. Okay. And they give you the reference as to where they found that in a document. Okay. All right. So that's pretty impressive. So now we're going to go for the next question is how should we dispose of old hard drives when we no longer need them? So how should, oh, we should probably see if it handles misspelling, but I don't want to take a chance. Should we, okay, when we no longer, longer. Question mark. Yay, go for it. So I'm thinking, from my security background, we probably need to shred them. So hang on, let's go. Okay, so according to your data source, here are the steps to follow when disposing of old drive. Well, that's kind of nice, right? It tells you where it's coming from, right? From the data source. It's an extremely important step because information hardware and software are moved to another system, archived, discarded, or destroyed during this phase. If performed improperly, the disposal. Okay, so that's giving you all kinds of, a lot of information. When disposing of hard drives, organizations should consider legal requirements. Okay, that's good. For federal system in the United States, officials should consult with their office responsible. Okay, it's important to ensure that all data on the hard drive have been securely removed from the process called sanitization. Which is the removal of information from a storage medium such as hard disk. Proper sanitization of a hard drive will prevent unauthorized access to any sensitive data that may be present in the drive. So I'm going to go a little off the topic here. So let me see. I'm going to ask another question. So I'm going to ask it to kind of drill down and say, well, give me some examples here. You're being very general, right? What are specific methods of sanitization? I'm not sure if it's going to come. If it doesn't, sorry. So let's see. 4 categories of media sanitization: disposal, clearing, purging, and destroying. Okay. Disposal is the physical removal of media from the organization. Clearing is the removal of data by overwriting, which prevents retrieval of data by data recovery techniques. Purging is the removal of data by overwriting with binary zeros, which prevent data recovery. And destroying is the physical destruction. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. So yeah, I'm kind of satisfied with that question. So let's see. Who is responsible for creating the security assessment report? All right, so let's go back into the lab. We'll say who is report. Boom. And go for it. Remember, this is a government document, right? So security assessment report SAR summarizes the result of activities. Therefore, the certification agent is responsible for creating the security assessment report. Okay. So who in the world is the certification agent? That's not in the lab, by the way, John, but I'm just kind of curious if it's able to tell you. Okay. Doesn't it kind of feel like ChatGPT if you use ChatGPT, right? Certification agent is either an individual, group, or organization responsible for conducting security certification, so assigned people. So certification agent assess the security system plan, etc., etc. Certification agent are also recommends corrective actions to reduce or eliminate vulnerabilities. Okay, so it's not as detailed as what I want, but it's an answer, right? Okay. So there you go. Oh, anyway, so let me go ahead and skip back onto my presentation material. So hang on here. Okay, so that was the question. And here we are, right? So in this section, I went through a couple of easy examples, but I think it still demonstrates the power of Gen AI in a very simple way. I mean, look at that. Can you imagine somebody creating an application that does this, right? No, I can't. So anyway, so that's what we did, right? So we looked at the foundation model and how Bedrock does it. So you saw how you have to ask for the permission to use it, and also you can start using it in the playground. It's a nice way to prototype the kind of power that it has. And then we went to the digital system, which is Q, right? Okay. All right. So the next section, I hope you enjoyed that, by the way. Okay. So anyway, so the next section is now I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you, Terumi. That was very informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And now I'd like to give the presentation rights over to Remy, our vendor manager, to introduce our promotions and webinar related courses.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Jeremy, for this insightful session. I believe everyone must have learned something new today or would have been able to brush up their skills. I would quickly like to take you through some of our hand-picked resources, which we think will immensely help in accelerating your AWS cloud scaling journey. Well, this document here of sharing on my screen, this has been shared with you all in the handout section of GoToWebinar panel. You can download this document and access all the resources and browse all the offerings we have curated for you. So first up here is the list of our recommended courses, which we feel will best suit your learning journey after attending our masterclass. All these courses are hyperlinked. Feel free to go through them post-event and check out the course descriptions, prerequisites, and the value it can add to you and your team's skill sets. Additionally, we have curated a blend of resources, including our upcoming and on-demand events as well as informative and educational blogs. You can make the most of these resources to gain extensive knowledge on the AWS topics they cover. Next up, I am thrilled to introduce the AWS Skill Builder, a dynamic learning center featuring over 600 digital courses crafted by AWS experts. I'm sure most of you must be aware of AWS Skill Builder. What is unique about this platform are the engaging game-based learning experiences. So through AWS Cloud Quest and team-based competitions on AWS Jam events. If you're hearing these terms, Cloud Quest and Jam events for the first time, I would highly recommend you click on this button and you go to our AWS Skill Builder page. I'm sure you will be amazed to see what all the Skill Builder has to offer. They have set off these gaming experiences in practical real world scenarios, which makes it so easy to understand concepts, technology, and processes. And it makes it so interesting for the learner. And for organizations, it saves a lot of time on employee skilling and ultimately enhancing the efficiency and productivity. As someone at Netcom who values continuous learning, I'm confident that AWS Skill Builder will be a game changer for any organization looking to upskill their workforce on AWS technologies. I encourage you to explore the diverse range of digital courses and experiences it offers. You can simply, as I said, click on this button right here, learn more, and you can explore more about the Skill Builder and the pricing aspect of this. Moving on to the next offering. Our free AWS e-learning courses follow a self-paced training model wherein you get the liberty of accessing extensive course-related videos that are delivered by the AWS subject matter experts on the go. So these videos cover the availability on the device of your choice, so you can access them from your laptop, your tablet, or from your phone as well. There are more than 280 videos covering various AWS topics explained in a very easy to comprehend language. You can simply sign up for free, watch these videos, and make the most out of them. Also, here I would like to inform you that this session is being recorded. So, in case you want to refer back to any of the topics that the trainer might have covered in today's session, we will be sharing the recording link with you through emails, and also you can access it here by clicking on this button. So you have to download this handout for that. And then if you want to revisit any topic, you can just simply click on the access recording and you can revisit the session and learn at your own pace. Now, apart from our virtual sessions, you can also catch the relevant updates related to IT and business trainings on our social media handles. So please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest updates. Our official pages and channels are linked here on the icons. Finally, if you have any suggestions regarding the topics you would like us to cover in our upcoming webinars and masterclasses, Please don't hesitate to send us a direct message, or you can leave a comment on our social media posts, or you can just simply email us at info@netcomlearning.com. We would definitely try to come up with the sessions on your suggested topics. Thank you once again for joining us today. Over to you, Tracy.
Thanks so much for guiding us through that information, Remy. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session.
The first question we have today is, what are some emerging use cases for Gen AI in industries like financial services, cybersecurity, and real estate?
All right. So, for example, in financial, how about something like a creating a personalized financial plan and investment strategies by simulating different economic scenarios and analyzing historical data trends. So the Gen AI can assist the customer directly creating financial planning, documents. I think that may be one. Another one is Gen AI can probably create and adapt a new legal and regulatory documents, for real estate and I'm sorry, for financial, by understanding changes in regulation. Right, I hear that these regulations change all the time. So when it changes, let the Gen AI, look at the changes and apply them to create a compliant, up-to-date documents for a particular financial company. Okay, for cybersecurity, for customers, I've actually helped them do some attack simulation. And so I think maybe coming up with scenarios for the simulated attacks might be a good usage of Gen AI. So Gen AI can create realistic cyber attack scenarios, right, for training and testing purposes. So because these scenarios have certain pattern, and in order to train on that, you change just some aspects of it, so that it remains fresh, but still follows the scenario for threats. And the next one would be something like a phishing detection, the phishing attacks, where the document kind of looks like real, but it's not real, right? So Gen AI system can really generate and then identify phishing attempts, right? And you can use that for training the end users to start to identify and question whether the email that they receive is a legitimate email or phishing emails, right? So I think that might be a good one. For real estate, how about like creating a automated real estate listing and descriptions, right? Coming up with descriptions. So I think Gen AI is perfect for that. And another one is remember how the Gen AI can actually create like a simulation of what if, right? So what if I were to add X to my house or something? So maybe for urban planning simulation, so Gen AI can simulate urban development projects and their impact on local markets, planning, decision-making process for developers and city planners to kind of come up with before and after, right? So I think that may be, and those are just some that I just came up with. Okay.
Looks like we have time for one more question. How does Amazon Q developer relate to Code Whisperer?
That's a really interesting question. And I actually had to look up the documentation. So I have a documentation in front of me. Okay. So what is Amazon Q Developer? I did not mention this in the presentation material, but the Amazon Q Developer is a obviously AI powered conversational assistant. That's basically what an Amazon Q is. But the developer, what it does is Amazon Q can help to improve your code, right? And to plan software development projects. So I think that's probably leading to this question that says, well, how does it relate to Code Whisperer? Well, Code Whisperer is also gives you advice about writing code. Okay, this seems to be similar, right? So when I looked at the documentation, it says in order for you to use Amazon Q Developer, you must have a Code Whisperer professional license. Okay, so I think that probably tells you all you need to know about the relationship between Amazon Q Developer, the code advice part, and the Code Whisperer professional license. They are so obviously Q Developer is leveraging Code Whisperer. Okay, so that part is probably one and the same. All right. So I hope that answers your questions. And thank you so much for sticking with this webinar. It was a long one, but I hope you got a lot out of it. And I wish you good luck in your journey in leveraging generative AI. I think it's a really hot topic. And also, I look forward to seeing you in another webinar. Again, thank you so much and have a nice day.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.